Hey friends, slip into something soft, dim those lights, and let whatever stress followed you home today melt into the hum of a box fan or the crackle of a candle. Before we wander into the midnight streets of medieval Europe together, tap that like button if slow, story-soaked history is your jam. Subscribe so you never miss another episode of Boring History for Sleep. And drop a comment telling me what time zone you're listening from, and whether you're curled up on the couch, stretched out in bed, or sneaking this during a late-night study grind. Those tiny rituals keep the channel alive, and they help me shape each journey to fit your favorite lullaby pace. All right, you ready? Take a long breath in, hold it for a heartbeat, and sigh it out. I want you to picture a winding cobblestone lane under a bruised purple dusk. Chimneys drip ribbons of wood smoke into the sky. Vendors shutter their stalls, but one voice still slices through the hush. The raw, quivering howl of a doomsday prophet. Imagine his silhouette first, a rag-stitched cloak, tattered so badly it flutters even in the still air. Bare feet crusted with road dust and penance blisters. Tangled hair heavy with candle wax he melted over his own head to prove devotion. A crude wooden cross dangles from his neck, bouncing each time he jerks his shoulders, and every bounce sends the rusty nail driven through that cross, winking in the torchlight. Some nights he drags a little handcart piled with skulls borrowed, questionably, from the charnel house. Other nights he swings an iron censer that spits resinous smoke, smelling of pine pitch and graves. But what really turns heads is the voice, shrill, unbroken, bouncing off stone facades like a trapped bird. Repent! The earth shall crack! The stars will fall like figs in a storm! He cites dates with absolute certainty. Next month at Tours, perhaps, or on the feast of St. Mary Magdalene. He quotes Revelation, the Sibylline oracles, and last week's weird arrangement of clouds as irrefutable evidence that time itself is on its deathbed. Now you and I sit comfortably in the 21st century, where deadline anxiety means an overdue spreadsheet, not the literal end of days. But if you'd been a cobbler in 1348, nursing a cough while rumors of plague caravans seeped in from the east, every tremor of that prophet's voice would have buzzed under your ribs like a wasp. Medieval Europe was primed for panic. Crop failures, eclipses, comets, infant mortality, and a church that often doubled down on dread because fear kept pews full and tithes flowing. Tonight, let's walk beside our apocalyptic hype man. Feel the shiver he drops into taverns, parishes, and markets, and watch panic ripple outward like rings in a well. We'll slip past castle gates, duck into smoky alehouses, and lean over parchment news sheets hot off the scriptorium table. We'll meet the town officials who tried, sometimes desperately, sometimes gleefully, to harness doomsday dread for power. And we'll spy on the secret skeptics who rolled their eyes in private, but still tucked extra candles under the bed, just in case midnight never birthed another dawn. Picture sunrise over a walled city. Let's call it Valdonia for our dream's sake. Bell towers peal prime. Bakers heave open ovens, and every roof glows copper where dew meets new light. At the southern gate, travelers queue, wool merchants, pilgrims, and our prophet, Brother Hilarious, Ironic name courtesy of an order that believed laughter shamed the devil. A watchman lifts his visor, squints at the skull cart, and sighs. He's torn. City statutes say no rotting remains inside the walls, yet refusing a holy wanderer courts spiritual backlash. Hilarious solves the dilemma by declaring the skulls miraculously odorless, a sign of their sanctity. He breathes into the guard's face, and wow, yes, the man smells nothing but mint. In reality, Hilarious chews fistfuls of pennyroyal to mask every stench, because optics matter when selling apocalypse. He's waved through. Bisexed the noonday hour, he's planted himself atop an overturned crate in the central plaza. Shopkeepers groan. They know crowds around a prophet buy fewer turnips. But they also know ignoring him invites whispers of heresy. So they lean in with everyone else, eyes wide, hands white-knuckled around coin pouches. Hilarious begins subtly. He holds aloft a parchment map smeared with charcoal constellations. He traces arcs. Mars and Saturn conjoin beneath the dragon's tail this month. When that shadow last curled across heaven, Rome burned and emperors bled. He cites comets bright as swords over Hungary, earthquakes that rattled Moorish ports, and a rooster in Brittany laying an egg. Yes, that happened, and yes, it was considered a herald of doom. All of it weaves one verdict. The apocalypse timetable is not vague someday lore. It's Thursday. Crowd energy shifts. A midwife gasps. A Fletcher crosses himself so hard, fingers slap cloth. Behind them, a spice dealer smirks. A man who survived 3 predicted dooms by selling Final Feast nutmeg at triple price. But even he flinches when Hilarious produces his final prop. A sealed jar of river water gone inexplicably blood red. In truth, he steeped rusty nails in there for weeks. He cracks the wax, tips a drip onto the cobbles, and the liquid glints crimson before vanishing into dust. Gasps multiply. Somewhere a child cries. Panic is contagious, but it needs amplifiers. Enter the local monks. Their abbot peers from the cloister gate, sees the gathering, does quick math. Anxiety plus absolution equals full coffers. Within an hour, the monastery bells clang a special vigil. Candles bloom. Confessional lines snake past the cloister garden, where novice brothers mutter Psalm 51 like a metronome. Hilarious is invited to preach from the pulpits of 2 rival churches, each afraid the other will hog the penitence surge. That night, Valdonia's taverns overflow, not with raucous revelers, but with hushed men itching to confess secrets before they combust in heavenly fire. Barmaids pour ale till barrels cough. At one table, a blacksmith lists debts he'll never repay. At another, a widow buys sweet cakes for every orphan, because why leave coins to a world in ashes? Rat-catchers, mercenaries, parchment scriveners, they all spend like time is a burning wick. The city recorder, tasked with chronicling civic life, notes the frenzy in the margin of his ledger. On the feast of St. Dymphna, people purchased tomb plots at 4 times the usual fee. Graveyard stewards ran out of ground. He doesn't believe entirely, yet he pockets a small burial site for himself that same day. insurance. Hilarious, meanwhile, sleeps on cathedral steps under borrowed wool. The abbot thought it photogenic. He dreams of flames, yes, but also of numbers. Each soul he frightens is a rung up the invisible ladder of influence. Gentry households already send discreet summons. Please dine with us, bless our children, reveal which heavenly signs to watch. A frightened noble is a generous host. Now, lean closer to the fire. I know the hour grows late where you are. Listen to the way panic mutates overnight. Past midnight, wind snarls through alleys, dogs howl. Someone claims to see St. Elmo's fire dancing above the bell tower. No one in that square has actually studied atmospheric electricity. They take it as proof the veil between realms is tearing. 2 stonemasons race to the smithy, beg the blacksmith to forge pilgrim badges by dawn so they can flee to Compostela before doom strikes. A milkmaid quietly evacuates livestock from a barn prone to flooding, just in case seas rise. Even skeptics feel the tremor, a hush under their breastbone like distant thunder. What if? What if? By lauds, the pre-sunrise prayer, the abbot unveils an all-night vigil turned week-long atonement festival. Relics are marched through streets, splinters of the true cross, jawbone of a local martyr, shabby cloth said to be Mary's veil. Offerings rain into baskets, lace, silver buttons, even a beloved lute. At the edge of the plaza, Hilarious keens the litany of the saints until his throat frays and blood speckles his spit. Spectacle cements panic into memory, and memory cements power. Yet beneath that roar sits an interesting countercurrent. The city's physician, Master Roland, scribbles notes about collective agitation, observing heart rates, sweaty palms, insomnia. He diagnoses fear like plague, speculates it travels via ear, not flea. He may be centuries early for psychology, but he's on to something. In his private diary, he wonders if the cure is silence. No sermons, no skulls, no tolling bells. But he dare not speak it. He enjoys breathing. Let's zoom the camera wider. Similar scenes ripple across Christendom in the long 14th century. In Cologne, a woman named Ermeline of Rheims has visions of the Antichrist nursing at her shoulder. Across the Channel, an English hermit named John of Bridlington prophesies tidal waves swallowing Flanders. Panic caravans along pilgrim routes as reliably as lice. Each seer adds local spice. Volcanic ash becomes dragon smoke. Locust swarms translate to demon armies. And every new prophecy piggybacks on older terrors. Famine, plague, Mongol horsemen rumored to drink Christian blood. Choose your nightmare. You might ask, didn't church authorities sometimes shut these prophets down? Oh yes, when their crowds threatened state order or papal authority. But just as often, bishops endorsed them, especially if donations spiked and heretics could be scapegoated. The line between orthodoxy and hysteria was drawn with chalk and frequently redrawn overnight. Back in Valdonia, day 2 dawns with restless energy. Hilarious claims angels sang him an update. Judgment has moved up, now mere hours away. Peasants wail, merchants shutter shops. Even the city watch grows jittery, each man gripping his halberd like a lightning rod. Then, something wild happens. Nothing. The appointed hour drifts by, uneventful as fog. No meteors, no trumpets, not even a reprimanding cloud. Children start kicking leather balls again. Women reopen shutters. A murmur rises. Was the prophet wrong? Hilarious is ready. He steps atop the wellhead, voice hoarse yet unbroken, and blames mercy. The virgin pleaded for delay because the city showed such pious zeal. Doom postponed, not canceled. New date forthcoming. Sudden relief floods townsfolk. They switch from terror to triumph like sailors saved from reef. But relief has an expiration. Within days, suspicious side glances bloom. Shopkeepers add up lost revenue. Civic leaders note unpaid taxes. Patience thins. Already a fresh comet sighting might be needed to reignite fear. Pause here with me. Notice the emotional pendulum people ride. Conviction, horror, charitable frenzy, exhaustion, doubt. All orchestrated by one gaunt figure with clever props and a memory for scripture. We haven't even stepped into the next chapter, where rival prophets collide, or where secular rulers leverage doomsday mania to purge enemies under guise of divine mandate. But that belongs to our next late-night ramble. For now, let your eyelids grow heavy. Let the echo of Hilarius's ragged chant fade into cricket song. If your mind starts drafting shopping lists, gently set them on the shelf. Plenty of time tomorrow before the world ends again. If you enjoyed drifting through panic-painted streets with me, hit like so the algorithm knows you like history served cozy. Subscribe for the rest of this 7-part story and tell me in the comments, what modern event would have fueled a medieval prophet's sermon? Satellite launches? Eclipses? Self-checkout machines that always fail? I read every answer between recordings. Slip back into the dream, friend, right where the church bells of Valdonia left a phantom ringing in your ears. No titles, no chapter numbers, no fuss. Just open your eyes inside the city at twilight, when the cobblestones still remember the weight of panicked feet, and the sunset brushes every soot-stained gable with improbable gold. You're standing near the fish market, now deserted save for gulls that haven't realized doom was postponed. The last glow of day catches in puddles of melted tallow, where penitents carried candles until the wax burned their knuckles. It smells of brine, incense, and the sour tang of yesterday's fear. Before we drift any farther, do the small kindnesses that keep our sleepy caravan rolling. Tap that like button so the algorithm doesn't consign us to medieval oblivion. And if you haven't subscribed yet, hit the bell so the next episode drops into your feed like a prophetic omen, minus the dread. Tell me in the comments what part of the world you're drowsing in tonight, and whether you'd have joined the vigil or skeptically sold miracle water from a rain barrel. Your words shape these wanderers more than Brother Hilarius's skull cart ever shaped the stars. Now breathe in slow. Let the evening chill settle on your tongue, and follow the lantern glow down an alley that snakes behind the abbey cloister. A trio of monks shuffle ahead, brown habits whispering. Their heads are bowed not in prayer, but in calculation. Because when panic ripples, someone always skims the foam. They speak of indulgence totals, of relics borrowed from a rival shrine, of whether they should invite the prophet to stay another week, or quietly ship him off before disappointed townsfolk trade confession lines for pitchfork lines. But they pause as you approach, and you slip past, eavesdropping no more. Instead, you duck into the cookshop doorway, where an overworked baker slumps against sacks of barley. His eyes are rimmed red. He hasn't slept since Hilarious screamed the stars down. Why? Because every frightened soul ordered funeral bread, and the ovens never cooled. What's worse, most paid in promissory blessings, not coin. He rubs flour from his beard and mutters that mercy may have delayed the apocalypse, but it hasn't fixed his empty till. Step back onto the lane. See that chalk mark beside the door lintel, a little crescent hastily drawn. Some call it the moon of delay, a symbol scribes claim binds heaven's timetable. Families hire schoolboys to scrawl it on lintels, hoping to buy another month of breathing. Others say it's pure superstition, yet even skeptics keep one hidden under fresh paint. Fear may fade, but caution clings like cobwebs. Distant hoofbeats drum over paving stones. A courier rides hard from the capital, cloak snapping. He carries a parchment sealed with the royal crest. In the Guildhall, aldermen will break that seal and discover a decree. By order of the crown, all itinerant preachers must register, submit sermons for approval, and pay a tidy licensing fee. The king didn't miss how quickly anxiety loosens purse strings. He wants his cut. Bureaucracy weaponized against hysteria, or perhaps just monetized. Either way, Hilarious just went from profit to taxable commodity. Across town, in a drafty loft above the tanner's yard, a young woman named Isabel sharpens a quill. She's the city scribe's apprentice, and last night's chaos birthed a side hustle, copying broadsheets of Hilarious's 11 heavenly signs. Merchants buy them to tack above stalls. Travelers fold them into packs as talismans. Isabel inks every comet and blood moon illustration with secret delight. She's paid by the sheet, and demand peaks when dread spikes. She suspects most buyers will burn these sheets in a week, but coin today feeds siblings tomorrow. Down in the cellar of the Red Heart Tavern, steam fogs the low ceiling. The publican's wife stirs a kettle of last chance stew. A marketing stroke, mixing root scraps, salt pork, and enough garlic to ward demons. The sign outside promises the stew guarantees survival until next prophecy. Patrons laugh, but every bowl sells. Fear drives appetite, and humor is the cheapest shield. Now, slip outside the walls. The pilgrim road coils into misty farmland. Crickets buzz, torches bob as a second prophet approaches Valdonia. This one wears a red hood and answers only to the sparrow of Ezekiel. Competition is arriving. Hilarious has no idea, yet the seeds of rivalry are sown. 2 prophecies in one city, double the dread or mutual annihilation. Depends who spins the better yarn. Walk with the sparrow a while. Her voice is softer, almost conspiratorial. She whispers that end times will birth a chosen remnant. She names no date, just urges constant readiness. She sells tiny bronze sparrow charms said to mark the faithful. Her business model is quieter, but margins are excellent. Copper alloy costs pennies. Salvation retails high. Back inside Valdonia, Hilarious receives the royal licensing edict. Panic flickers in his eyes. Pay a fee? Submit sermons? That strangles spontaneity, the soul of his craft. He considers flight, but the abbot corners him first, quill poised. "We'll cover the fee," the abbot purrs, "if you preach exclusively in our nave." A velvet-lined trap. Hilarious nods, though alarm bells clang in his chest louder than any cathedral carillon. Evening again, the second since prophecies flop. Torches ring the square, townsfolk gather, curiosity duller but still present. Hilarious mounts the crate, voice raw. He spins a new tale, judgment delayed due to hidden sin among city leaders. Q gasps. Fingers point at aldermen, at merchant guildmasters. It's a pivot from cosmic fear to civic scapegoating, and crowds love a new plot twist. But behind the throng, the sparrow slides through shadows, her hood crimson under torch glow. She listens, smiles. Conflict feeds attention, and attention sells charms. Soon, rumors will pit prophet against prophet, monastery against mendicant. The marketplace of dread is open, bids rising. Now, drift with me to a back-alley garret where Master Roland the physician crushes valerian to calm patients rattled by sleepless nights. He pens a treatise arguing that terror weakens humors, invites buboes and fevers. He proposes municipal quiet hours banning bell ringing after dusk. Forward thinking, yes, but he also stocks extra leeches, because if people believe fear makes them sick, business will boom. Next sunrise, 2 parchment postings appear side by side on the city gate. One bears the royal seal, listing licensed prophets, Hilarious included. The second, in red ink, condemns any unlicensed preacher as tool of Satan. The shrine's prior likely wrote it to muzzle the sparrow. She laughs, tears the page down, and hands out free charms just beyond gate jurisdiction. Her popularity doubles. Soon, factions form. Hilarians sport wool sashes dyed with onion skin yellow. Sparrowites tie scarlet ribbons around wrists. Tavern debates turn heated. You can almost taste tension floating like wood smoke. The city recorder scribbles another margin note. Fear fractures fellowship more sharply than famine. As days pass, predicted signs grow weirder. Hilarious claims every miscarriage, crooked calf, or red sunrise proves his new timeline. The sparrow counters with gentler signs. Unexpected acts of charity indicate the remnant is forming. People start performing public kindness just to hedge bets. Bread loaves appear on doorsteps. Debts are forgiven at random. Dread births generosity. Generosity blunts dread. An emotional feedback loop dizzy as cathedral stairs. Let's pause at the edge of the cloister garden. Moonbeams silver the herb beds. You sit on a bench, listening to crickets, distant hymn chant, and your heartbeat. The city is still for a breath. suspended between rival prophecies, hovering like incense smoke in candlelight. Will panic flare or fade? The answer waits beyond this hush, and we'll wade into it next time, through riots sparked by false miracles, secret councils plotting exile for both prophets, and the clever merchant who bottles sparrow water laced with honey and wine. But let your eyelids sag. Let torch glow dim behind them. Doom can wait. Slumber calls. Grip your cloak a little tighter. Dawn hasn't even blushed yet, but the air outside Valdonia feels charged, the way sheep prickle before lightning they can't see. If you're roaming these streets half awake with me, give the video a gentle nudge by tapping like. Whisper subscribed to the bell so you never miss tomorrow's dread-soaked lullaby. And tell me in the comments whether you'd be selling charms or stockpiling bread if prophecy loomed over your hometown. Your answers keep this midnight caravan from wandering off a cliff. Now ease back into the story. You're ankle-deep in mist just beyond the Barbican, watching a caravan of pilgrims shuffle toward the gate. Yesterday they fled the city in a frenzy. Today many limp back, pockets emptier, hope thinner, but still hungry for answers. Word has spread. The sparrow of Ezekiel healed a lame boy outside the walls at dawn. At least that's how the rumor hatched somewhere between the hovel fires and the wheat fields. Witnesses claim they saw the child rise and run after she pressed a bronze charm to his brow. Others swear the boy simply stumbled forward, startled by a burst of sunlight through fog. Doesn't matter. Hope travels faster than horses. Hilarious, locked in the Abbey's chapter house, paces like a caged lynx. He hears crowds chanting the sparrow's name and tastes betrayal. Yesterday, he was heaven's mouthpiece. Now fresh miracle talk threatens to dethrone him. He slams his palm on the oak table, rattling ink pots. The abbot's smile is thin and diplomatic. Don't dent the furniture, brother prophet. There are negotiations underway. The shrine invested in you. Think of the indulgence kiosks, the confession queues. But Hilarious only thinks of losing the crowd's heartbeat. Across town, Sparrowites braid scarlet ribbons into their hair. They hammer makeshift pulpits from fruit crates. They hand out watered honey wine, dubbed sparrow water, that supposedly eases visions and nourishes the remnant. In truth, the wine is laced with a pinch of rosemary and a slap of raw spirit. Cheap buzz packaged as revelation. A local vintner named Cotard bottles it by torchlight, scrawling sparrows on rough parchment labels while praying no one notices yesterday's vintage tastes exactly like last month's spoiled table wine. Profit margins soar. Hangovers bloom. Meanwhile, the city council meets in secret in the attic of the Mint. Candles gutter over anxious faces. The Chancellor of Customs argues profits must be taxed out of town. The Captain of Guard fears a riot if Hilarious is arrested and Sparrow left to preach. The Bakers' Guild delegate, eyes still red from sleepless dough marathons, pleads for calm. Bread sales tank when mobs break windows. After hours of debate, they draft a plan. Stage a joint vision tribunal. Force both prophets to prove divine authority in public under council oversight.
If neither conjures a miracle on demand, the city can legally expel them for fraud. Simple, elegant, also wildly naive.
Nightfall again. Lanterns sway above the market square, illuminating a hastily built wooden stage. Council heralds nail a proclamation. 3 days hence, both prophets must appear before the tribunal. Torches hiss, citizens murmur. Some cheer justice, others scowl. Who are bureaucrats to judge the Almighty's messengers? A pickpocket takes advantage, relieving a noblewoman of her purse while her eyes track the notice. Fear breeds distraction. Thieves breed opportunities.
In a dim loft near the fish quay, Isabel the scribe scribbles faster than a rat can scurry. She copies the proclamation for pamphleteers, but also drafts underground broadsheets mocking the council's arrogance, commissioned by Sparrowite patrons. She swaps quills between each job, as though different feathers absolve divided loyalties. Coins clink into her satchel, silver from officials, copper from rebels, all welcome. Now wander into the apothecary's alley. Master Roland the physician has pivoted his business yet again. He markets a draught called Serum of Serenity, claiming it steadies nerves frayed by apocalyptic terror. Base ingredients: wine vinegar, chamomile, and just enough poppy to tug eyelids southward. Side effect: customers sleep through sermons. Which prophet loses audience share first? Roland doesn't care. His ledger swells like plague buboes. Dawn of Tribunal -2. Hilarious wakes from a nightmare, a red sparrow pecking out his tongue while the crowd laughs blood. He jolts upright in his straw cot, sweat-drenched, heartbeat hammering. On impulse, he claws at parchment, penning a fresh prophecy. On tribunal day, the river will turn crimson if the city doubts him. He'll need to stage the sign. Pig's blood upstream, maybe? But logistics tangle with conscience. He's no butcher, yet desperation spurs creativity. Simultaneously, in a shepherd's abandoned hut outside the wall, the sparrow of Ezekiel kneels among candle stubs. She fingers her bronze charms like rosary beads. She's no fool. She knows miracles on demand are rare commodities. She plots a countersign, a white dove to alight on her shoulder at the tribunal moment. Doves can be bribed with grain and trained. She once saw a faker do it at a seaside fair. She dispatches a follower to buy a tame dovecote bird and feather dye it pale as new parchment. The city simmers. Yellow-sashed Hilarians patrol taverns, chanting psalms. Scarlet-ribboned sparrowites reply with lilting hymns. Somewhere inside those melodies hides a blade of rivalry. A wine jug shatters, fists fly. The first true riot sparks outside the Red Heart. Guard whistles shriek, cudgels crack. 3 stalls burn before rain snuffs flames. Next morning's sky hangs gray as unspun wool. Smoke from charred stalls curls above rooftops, mingling with church incense. The abbot addresses the faithful in the nave, urging fasting and charity to avert divine wrath. Yet he quietly hires extra gravediggers, just prudent, he says. Predictions, riots, tribunals. Bodies follow. Council carpenters reinforce the tribunal stage with oak beams. A canopy appears, a token of dignity, but also a barricade in case stones fly. The bailiff drills militia in crowd control formations. He ties white cloth over their helms so panicked citizens can identify peace guardians. White cloth soaks blood most visibly, maybe subconscious deterrent. Late that night, you weave through alleys guided by guttering lanterns until you reach the river bridge. Moonlight glints off dark water. Hilarious crouches beside a cart stacked with barrels labeled fish brine. But smell them. Iron metallic tang betrays pig's blood. He rolls a cask toward the parapet, intent on cracking it open at dawn, staining the current crimson just before the tribunal. His hands shake. He pauses, whispering a prayer for forgiveness. Then a voice behind him. Isabel, cloak drawn, quill tucked like a dagger. She witnessed everything while gathering night ambience for pamphlets. She doesn't cry alarm. Instead, she offers a deal. Provide her exclusive testimony of divine sign preparation, and she'll spin the story to paint Hilarious as repentant hero forced into deception by council tyranny. Hilarious hesitates. Truth kissed by lies could still save faith. He nods, sealing a devil's bargain with ink and fear. Tribunal Eve. Word leaks of barrel shadows by the river. Sparrowites accuse Hilarians of plotting sorcery. Hilarians brand Sparrowites slanderers. In response, Sparrow's followers parade a dove in a wicker cage through streets, chanting, "Signs of peace, not blood." The bird coos, oblivious. Night extends talons. Thunder rumbles. Roland's serum of serenity sells out. Taverns overflow with jittery whispers. Council members barricade their homes. At first light, drizzle veils the square. Citizens crowd tight as grains in a granary, eyes gleaming with dread curiosity. Militia line the stage. A herald recites the tribunal oath. His voice quavers. Hilarious ascends first, robes damp, face wan. The abbot stands behind him, hands clasped, measuring crowd mood like a market scale. Hilarious proclaims river blood sign will appear if his words are heaven blessed. He gestures skyward, but thunder's gone. Only drizzle answers. Minutes crawl. Across planks the sparrow steps, crimson hood gleaming wet. She raises the caged dove. A hush blankets the square. She releases latch, the bird flutters up, then panics at rain, circles once, and bolts toward marketplaces instead of her shoulder. Gasps, chuckles, Hilarians jeer. Sparrow's smile falters. At that exact misstep, a cask cracks upriver. Maybe a loose bung, maybe Hilarious' accomplice. Pig's blood gushes into water, crimson ribbon unfurling toward the bridge. Someone screams, "Miracle!" Crowd surges. Hilarious raises arms in trembling triumph. River reddens. But fate is fickle. Rain-diluted blood turns murky pink before reaching spectators. A fish corpse bobs belly white, prompting shouts of trickery. Sparrowites seize opportunity. Plague omen, Hilarious poisons river. Panic ignites, stones hurl, militia shields lock. You backpedal through chaos, ducking debris. The abbot hustles hilarious off stage. Counselors flee opposite direction. Sparrow crouches behind lectern, whispering prayers. The dove returns unexpectedly, perching on her hood. Someone spots it, cries miracle. Tides shift again. Riot erupts into two opposing currents swirling around the stage like battling whirlpools. From a rooftop, Isabel watches, clutching her satchel of notes. History writes itself below, messy and marvelous. She wonders which version will sell, Blood River Fraud or Fugitive Dove Redemption. Probably both, serialized. By dusk, the square is littered with broken stalls, smeared fruit, and spent fear. 10 lie dead, dozens wounded. Council decrees exiles for both prophets at dawn. Hilarious hides in the abbey crypt, Sparrow in a wool merchant's loft. Their flocks dissolve into exhausted silence. Slide with me to moonlit fields beyond city lights. Hilarious trudges down rutted track, hood low, a single satchel clinking with leftover alms. He glances skyward. No comets, no wrath, just indifferent stars. He murmurs, maybe he'll farm, maybe he'll write gospel commentary. Anything but prophecy. A mile behind, the sparrow and 2 loyal followers stride south, dove cage empty. She hums a lullaby from childhood, voice thin but steady. She believes a season of silence will birth new words inside her, but vows never again to court crowds, only small firesides. Yet fate seldom listens. Back inside Valdonia, merchants repair stalls. Townsfolk scrub blood from stone. Fear ripples out, weaker each tide, until it's no more than a memory to unpack on winter nights. But seeds remain. New tax codes on itinerant preaching, wiser council protocols, and Isabel's pamphlets fluttering across taverns in distant counties, carrying lessons of how dread can kindle profit, division, and strange sorts of mercy. Close your eyes. Hear rain patter on shuttered windows. Smell faint wood smoke as homes settle into weary peace. Let muscles unclench. Your own nights may feel less apocalyptic by comparison. Doom prophets fade. Sleep lingers. Before we unroll tonight's map, give the algorithm gods a little sacrifice. Click like if this fireside ramble helps your eyelids droop, and baptize the comments with the oddest travel tale you've heard. Did your uncle really outrun tax collectors dressed as a goose? I live for that chaotic energy. And if you're listening from a pillow fort, confess your time zone so fellow insomniacs can wave from across the planet. Now shuffle back into the story. Lantern low, rain gone, roads still glistening like spilled ink. The Sparrow's Caravan, 12 souls and 1 wheezing mule, ascends the ridge track at dawn. Wind scrapes across bramble, and the valley hunkers gray beneath them. Smoke curls marking Tomas's eastbound convoy. Sparrow's people carry only seed cakes, water gourds, and the crone's cracked palter. They chose the highlands because silence seems safer than marketplaces that price hope by the ounce. Their goal is an abandoned sheepfold rumored to stand near Maribel Spring, a place healers once gathered during droughts. Sparrow dreams of planting beans there, east of the crumbled wall. feeding anyone who arrives with empty hands. On the third climb, the path narrows to goat width. Rock gives way under Brother Olav's boot. He tumbles, twists an ankle. The group halts. Sparrow breaks off a holly branch and fashions a splint with strips torn from her scarlet cloak. She chants a line of Isaiah. Strengthen the feeble knees. Voice quaking but firm. Olav hobbles forward, face shining with pain and awe. Every gesture like this knits the little band tighter. Yet each kindness also mortars Sparrow higher on the pedestal she hates. By twilight they reach the sheepfold. Half a stone wall, blackthorn bursting through mortar, and a sagging timber roof shingled and moss. It smells of old straw, but it is dry, and the spring gurgles nearby. They collapse on damp earth, eat seed cakes, and for the first time since Valdonia, hear nothing but wind combing through heather. Sparrow stares south, imagining Thomas under dockyard lanterns, bargaining for saltfish he cannot quite afford. Saltfish and lanterns are exactly where Thomas finds himself. His company, 31 travelers, mostly young, mostly broke, arrives at Port Alvaret as bells toll sext. Gull screeches drown the bells. The harbor stinks of tar, brine, and rotting kelp, but after mud roads and thunder riots, it smells like deliverance. They thread past fishmongers, dodging nets strung to dry. The city guard barely glance at them. Profits are a Valdonian problem. Thomas's first move is establishing a stall on Pilgrim Quay. He lines his remaining pewter fish on a rum barrel and paints a new slogan on canvas. Tokens of the dove and the fish, unity against fear. Clever brand merger, he thinks. Sparrow's emblem plus Hilarious's old iconography, repackaged as reconciliation memorabilia. To his surprise, sailors from the Hansa docks snap them up, amused by the novelty. Coin clinks in his palm for the first time in days. But Port Alvaret has its prophets too. A thin friar named Petruchio, famous for preaching temperance while guzzling ale, watches Tomas's sails with narrow eyes. He sees competition. That night, while Tomas's troop sleeps in a warehouse loft, Petruchio pays dock urchins 2 coppers each to scatter rumors that pewter fish cause boils. By dawn, local gossip swears a sailor's dog ate one and died foaming green. Sails freeze. Thomas curses, weighs options, then decides to pivot again. He buys cheap ribbons, ties them through each fish, and markets them as wind charms that protect rigging from storms if tied to a mast. Sailors are superstitious. A new market opens. Yet each pivot drags him further from the message he once half believed. Profit tastes ash bitter, but hunger is a harsher flavor. While stalls jostle along Pilgrim Quay, Gerbert, the whisper broker, operates nearby, selling scrolls that inflate every rumor threefold. Today's titles: Scarlet Prophetess calls down hail in Highlands, and Penitent Hilarious raises chapel from ashes. He writes both from scraps of hearsay, but they sell. A sea captain buys 10 copies to amuse crew on long tacks. Lies travel faster than seabirds. Far inland, Hilarious kneels at the hearth of that burned cottage. With salvaged beams he frames the skeleton of a wayside oratory no larger than a stable. His palms bleed from hammering rusty nails. Local children watch from briar thickets, giggling at his crooked workmanship. But he hums a lullaby his mother once sang and keeps building. Penitence expressed in splinters might patch the holes pride left in him. At dusk, a cloaked rider appears, Prior Laurentius of St. Elswith's Abbey. He dismounts, surveys the half-built walls. "Your pilgrimage ends fast," he notes. Hilarius bows. "I'm still walking," he says, "but I need a lantern for others." The prior's stern mask cracks into the faintest smile. He hands over a small parcel, dried fish, cheese, and a cedar icon of St. Havard. "For travelers," he explains. "If you keep silent as vowed, the icon may speak louder." He leaves without another word. Hilarius places the icon above the doorway beam, feeling something shift inside, less like prophecy, more like plain purpose. That night, he sleeps without visions. Back in the highlands, Sparrow's camp transforms the sheepfold. They patch roof gaps with bracken, clear spring-fed trough. By day 3, they plant beans, kale, and onion sets. When Brother Olav's ankle swells, Sparrow soaks bandage strips in cool spring water, murmuring psalms. Villagers from Lower Mirabel wander up curious. They expect renting sermons. Instead, they find quiet labor and free porridge. Suspicion thaws. A widow named Johanna offers spare hens. In return, Sparrow blesses her sickly cow, though she admits she has no healing power beyond prayer and patience. The cow perks up anyway. Maybe coincidence, maybe better pasture. Either way, Johanna tells neighbors the Red Hood Saint saved her livelihood. Word trickles down valleys. Soon the sheepfold sees daily lines of sick and sad, blighted wheat samples, feverish toddlers, lovers seeking omen of marriage. Sparrow listens, offers herbal advice learned from convent years, or simply sits beside them. Crowds never swell beyond 24, yet each soul leaves feeling lighter, and each story they carry outward grows a feather of myth on the wing. Sparrow's followers grow uneasy. They left riots to escape frenzy, but fame follows like a shadow. At council by the hearth, Sister Marin warns, "Miracles breed tithes. Tithes breed envy." Sparrow nods. A plan stirs. To teach villagers skills and then move on, leaving no vacuum. She resolves to depart once first bean shoots sprout. Hundreds of miles south, those satire jonglers hired by Valdonia finally debut in the market town of Sorn. They wear papier-mâché bird masks, mock both prophets equally. One skit shows Hilarius the Stentorious inflating goat bladders labeled Doom, then slipping on them. Another depicts Sparrow the Soft feeding salt to crops, killing them with kindness. Laughter erupts. Coin clinks into hat. Yet after show, a drunken spectator declares his aunt cured gout after meeting Sparrow. Another swears Hilarius predicted barn fire exactly. Argument sparks, fists fly. The jonglers flee with bruises and half their takings. In trying to suppress prophetic fires, the council fans embers across fresh towns. They report home, satire ineffective. Valdonia debates sterner methods, perhaps bounty hunters to escort prophets across kingdom line. Treasury still thin, but a merchant guild offers funding in return for exclusive pilgrimage permits once chaos ends. Counsel hesitates, but greed is persuasive.
Gerbert, ever alert to shifting winds, overhears dockside gossip about bounties coming. He drafts letters to both camps, offering advance warning of hostile escorts in exchange for gold now. He dispatches 2 couriers. One rides north to Sparrow's sheepfold, one east to Tomas's port loft. He hesitates on Hilarius. The ascetic priest seems broke. But rumor of a shrine draws pilgrims who drop coins, so Gerbert scribbles 3rd letter just in case. At Sheepfold, Sparrow receives her letter during early bean weeding. She reads, frowns at the demand for coin, then folds the page into fire. But the warning is valuable. They must depart sooner. That night she tells followers to pack. Brother Olaf's ankle still sore, yet he insists. They leave before dawn, leaving beans under Johanna's care, exchanging blessings for feed oats. Tomas receives his copy while haggling ribbon prices. He smells extortion, but senses real threat. He decides to preempt officials by rebranding yet again. His convoy will become a legitimate trade guild, the Fellowship of Peace Tokens, offering neutral courier services between warring prophet factions. He drafts charters, charges membership fees. Some pilgrims grumble, others, hungry for structure, pay. With funds, he buys a river barge, aiming to sail upriver before bounty hunters lock roads. Hilarius doesn't receive his letter. Gerbert's courier loses it to highwaymen. Fate likes converging lines. Sparrow's caravan descends foothills toward the river crossing exactly when Tomas's barge drifts upriver, patched sail emblazoned with a hastily painted fish and dove emblem. Morning mist curls above water. From hill path, Sparrow recognizes the symbol, laughs softly, and waves cane, a new walking stick carved from mountain ash. Tomas on deck squints, incredulous, then calls orders to dock. Reunion on muddy bank feels like siblings meeting after separate storm tales. Tomas's group nearly doubled, 50 faces now. Sparrow's remains a humble dozen. They trade news, Hilarius building shrine, satire riots, rumored bounties. Tomas proposes alliance again, this time as equal partners within trade fellowship, promising safe transport and shared profits. Sparrow pauses long. Her people eye the bustling barge with caution and desire. She devises compromise. Her caravan will bless each village they pass with practical knowledge, crop rotation tips, herbal lore, while Tomas's guild handles trade. Profits fund way stations for the poor. Tomas agrees, partly out of guilt, partly ambition. They load Sparrow's followers aboard. Oak bough garlands deck rail. Journey resumes upriver, song rising as oars flash. Not everyone joins. Brother Olav, ankle nearly healed, chooses to stay ashore with Johanna to guard the bean garden. They plan to build a clinic. He waves as sail catches breeze. The merged convoy glides past reed beds where white egrets stand like monks. Children trail fingers in water. Sparrow teaches them rhyme about humility flowing like rivers. Tomas tallies inventories and whispers of scaling operations. He dreams of a chain of peace hostels monetizing pilgrim traffic. Sparrow overhears, sighs, but files thought for later dialogue. They dock at River Marsh, a logging village.
Sparrow conducts simple blessing over mill. Tomas opens pop-up stall selling wind charms. This time, Petruchio, the rival friar, has arrived first, preaching that fish charms invite storms. Crowd toggles between them like dogs hearing two whistles. To defuse tension, Sparrow steps onto crate and praises both commerce and caution, urging villagers to judge by fruits, not slogans. She invites the friar to share meal. Surprised, Petruchio accepts. During stew, he confesses he drank a charm-tainted ale and felt fine. Rivalry cools into awkward camaraderie. Tomas marvels. Sparrow just smiles. But peace is borrowed time. That very night, the bounty squad rides in. 6 armored men bearing Valdonia's sigil, led by Captain Isolde, a pragmatic veteran. They nail edict on tavern door. Hilarious, Sparrow, and any affiliate must present for escort beyond border or face arrest. Tomas spots notice at dawn while staggering to privy. Panic prickles. He rouses Sparrow. Plan? Hide? Flee? Negotiate? Sparrow decides negotiation first. She confronts Captain Isolde at riverfront. The captain is not cruel. She just wants job done without bloodshed. Sparrow suggests voluntary compliance if 2 conditions met: safe passage for pilgrims to new lands and permission to continue relief work under local lords. Isolde, underpaid and tired, agrees to pass proposal up chain, but insists Sparrow remain under guard meantime. Tomas, fearing seizure of barge and inventory, bribes 2 guards to look over there while he sails upriver at dusk with part of convoy. Sparrow watches lights drift away, heavy-hearted yet understanding. She never asked him to share chains. But some followers choose to stay with her, including Sister Marin. Others board the barge, chasing promise of prosperity. Isolde quarters, Sparrow in town magistrate's attic, windows barred. From there she sees storm clouds bruising horizon. She sings to keep fear at bay, voice threading through rafters. The sparrow finds a house and the swallow a nest. Villagers outside pause mid-task, listening. Even guards soften. Miles upriver, Tomas's barge collapses into frantic toil. They must outrun patrol boats. Wind picks up, pushing sail, but lightning forks behind. Crew ties fish charms to mast, superstition now personal case study. Rain lashes, river swells. The barge scrapes hidden rock, cracks planks. Water gushes, passengers scream. Tomas orders bailing, praying silently to any saint of commerce. Back at shrine, Hilarious hears thunder echo. He stands in doorway of near-finished chapel, cedar icon catching candles glow. He senses, not vision, but intuition, that his scattered flock fight storms of their own making. He prays for mercy on river travelers and wisdom for sparrows in bonds. Wind hammers the river Alvaret with such fury that Tomas can't tell drizzle from river spray. Every wave seems to carry a face, mocking, drowning, pleading. Pewter fish charms clang like frantic bells against the mast, promising luck they were never forged to give. Half his passengers bail with cracked buckets, the other half sob or pray, but the barge keeps swallowing water faster than hope. Tomas orders the mainsail reefed, yet the canvas snaps off its yard like parchment in a fire. One sheet wraps around Sister Ellen's shoulders, nearly pitching her overboard. She shrieks. Red-bearded Gervis lunges, grabs her habit in one hand and the splintering rail in the other, muscles straining until lightning flash reveals them both safe, shaking, soaked, alive. The moment brands itself on every pair of eyes watching. Below deck, crates of ribbon-strung charms break loose, slide, smash. Pewter fish scatter like scales across the flooding hold. Sailing Master Brune howls that the rudder pin's gone. Directions mean nothing when a boat whirls like leaf mulch. Thomas, who once recited price lists with priestly precision, now only recites steady, 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 as if the word itself could nail planks back in place. They grind onto a gravel shoal with a teeth-rattling crunch. The hull lurches, tips, stops. For 3 heartbeats it's quiet, except storm hiss. Then wood groans, ribs buckle. "Abandon!" Brune shouts. They slash mooring lines, fashion rope ladders. One by one, they plunge waist-deep into black water, stumble onto the shoal. River current claws at boots, but the bank rises just enough for footing. Lightning fans across sky, ragged banner revealing a half-collapsed watchtower on the far side. Shelter or trap? Doesn't matter, they bolt toward it. Thomas counts survivors at tower archway. 44, 45, 2 missing. He wants to stop, go back, but current already drags the barge downstream like a corpse. Brune grabs his shoulder, shakes his head. Lightning dims. Darkness accepts the verdict. Inside the tower, they find rotting hay, moldy barrels, and a colony of bats that flee in squealing spiral. Wet bodies huddle. Thomas rips his merchant ledger, starts small fire. Smoke curls through cracked roof, but flame spreads warmth that feels almost sinful. No one speaks the names of those lost. Silence writes them on every heart louder than words. While flames dance, Thomas pulls a pewter fish from pocket, one of the few left intact. He stares until metal burns his palm. Then, with sudden fury, he hurls it into fire. Hiss. Melt. He swears no more trinkets, no more slogans. From now on, he'll trade only in things that float, not drown. Miles downstream, river debris bumps a patrol boat's prow, the very craft Captain Isolde requisitioned to carry Sparrow south come morning. She stands on deck beneath a tar-cloaked lantern, scanning waves. Seeing broken crates and ribbon tangles, she mutters, "Someone upstream paid dearly tonight." She glances at Sparrow, shackled but unbowed aside the mast. Rain beads slide off Sparrow's scarlet hood, pooling where chains bite. Sparrow hums low to steady soaked pilgrims penned near bow. Isolde listens. The tune is plain, old as dust. Some folk lullaby about planting barley after storm. It unsettles the captain more than any sermon. It sounds like tenacity you can't arrest. She barks order to steer for Leeward Cove until dawn. Under makeshift awning, Isolde pours Sparrow watered wine. "Prisoner or no," she says, "you'll die of chill before council can question you." Sparrow sips, thanks her. They lock eyes. One woman weary of obeying orders, the other weary of giving hope. For an instant, they seem twin statues weathered by different rains. Sparrow asks, "What dream jolts you awake?" Isolde frowns. "A bridge collapse," she says after a pause. "My platoon fell through ice once. I still hear the crack." Sparrow nods, hums again. Northwest. Captain doesn't stop. Hilarius's chapel walls finally meet the roof. He wedges last slate under moonlight. Snowflakes swirl, unexpected this early. Children who mocked him before now haul stones to build low benches. They call him Silent Father, though he speaks little more than thanks. On opening eve, he circles the sanctuary with tallow candle, praying each pilgrim may drop fear as easily as travelers drop packs at door. Finch voice rasps outside. He finds tiny bird stunned by cold. He cups it, warms it near candle. Feather tips twitch. Bird lives. Hilarious laughs, first full laugh in years, echoing off fresh walls, startling kids peeking through shutter gaps. Moments later, a rider gallops in. Courier from Abbey with Gerbert's delayed letter, now torn, smeared by rain. Hilarious deciphers only fragments. Bounties, arrests, Sparrow in custody, Thomas afloat. His calm shakes. He kneels, both hands around candle flame, whispering, "Guide them," until wax scalds knuckles. When he stands, decision solidifies. He will walk south at dawn, chapel or no chapel. Children protest. He lays cedar icon in Josette's hands, the bravest girl, and says, "You are stewards now." He shoulders walking staff and sets off beneath flurries with nothing but cloak, loaf, and a heart suddenly roaring. At dawn, the river's storm subsides. Thomas's band emerges from tower to survey damage. Barge gone, crates gone, but everyone alive clutches new resolve. Brune scouts, finds a beached log raft abandoned by charcoal burners. They lash planks, improvise oars. Destination shifts. Instead of upriver trade empire, they'll head sideways. To border marsh, intercept Sparrow's convoy, cut some deal, maybe free her. Thomas doesn't admit giant guilt, but every oar stroke is apology. They poach cattail roots for breakfast. Sister Ellen leads prayer for lost ones. When sun peers through shredded clouds, they push off, silence broken by rhythmic splash. Pewter charms? Tossed. Ledger? Used as kindling. The fellowship reborn as something rougher, realer. Mid-morning, they spot patrol boat anchored in cove, Isoldes. Smoke curls from its galley. Tomasa's raft slips behind reeds. He organizes quick parley. Brune and Elena will approach as weary fishers to gauge mood. He fears ambush, but clings to hope Captain may trade hostages for supplies. On deck, Sparrow sees two figures paddle up in scuttled dinghy. Even from distance, she knows Thomas's posture, shoulders tense as strung bow. Joy stabs her heart, followed by dread. Rescue attempt could end in more chains or arrows. She catches Captain Isold's sleeve, whispers, "That's my friend, let me speak." Isold eyes her, torn between protocol and humanity. She allows Sparrow to the rail, guards ready. Thomas hails, "Captain, we bring provisions and healer if you spare prisoners hardship." Isolde laughs bitterly. "I'm the one keeping her warm." Sparrow raises shackle. "Healed hearts yield quieter prisoners," she says. The captain asks what they want. Thomas breathes, "An audience. 5 minutes, then you still command." Isolde senses mutiny in herself, but grants it, weapons lowered but cocked. On deck, the reunion is wordless. Tomas presses forehead to Sparrow's, both trembling. Surrounding pilgrims watch like church mice at lion wedding. Tomas volunteers entire raft as collateral. Crew will ferry patrol boat to next garrison if Sparrow released. Isolde considers. She must deliver a profit, yet paperwork says nothing about which profit. Sparrow proposes alternative. Take her to border as ordered, but allow Tomas and convoy to escort villagers seeking asylum. They'll reduce burden and bad press. Isolde decides, astonishing even herself, to draft addendum citing logistical necessity. She unlocks Sparrow's wrists long enough for them to sign. Deal sealed. The merged flotilla sets southward. Patrol boat towing jittery raft. Tomas's people row. Guards rest. Roles blur. Someone starts sea palm. Voices mingle. Unexpected harmony across chains and oars. Even Isolde hums a bar. Nightfall blankets them near marsh deltas. Lanterns glow amber. Sparrow and Captain share stale bread, discussing bean crops and bridge nightmares. Tomas mends sailcloth beside guard who once aimed spear at him. Trust, awkward, fragile, spreads like dawn gray. Yet, danger prowls elsewhere. Council's hired bounty squad, impatient for results, has split. One wing rides riverbanks to intercept boats. Leader is notorious Wolfred Blacktabard, a man paid by arrests, not agreements. His scouts see lanterns on water, mark patrol pennant, smile. They sharpen hooks, ready iron cages. Lightning, far upriver flickers again. Storm reborn or omen. On deck, Sparrow catches echo of thunder and shivers. Mist cakes every plank when first watch ends. The patrol pennant droops, soaked, over a water so still it seems not liquid, but a sheet of pewter hammered flat by the night. Some wise soul doused the lanterns to hide them from bounty eyes, so they navigate by dull stars and memory of channel bends. Rope linking raft to patrol boat creaks like an old jaw. Captain Isoldel allows only whispers, even those feel scandalous. Below deck, pilgrims sleep in ragged clusters. Sparrow sits cross-legged near the open hatch, wrists still raw though unchained. She's teaching little Robard, a 7-year-old who lost his aunt during the tower storm, to fold waxed parchment into toy boats. He ruins 3, then floats the 4th in a bucket. It circles once, bumps the rim, doesn't sink. Victory! His grin detonates inside the hush. Across the hold, Sister Elenine mouths silent prayer of thanks, as though the tiny craft is proof that some plans hold water. On deck, Tomas surveys shoreline through spyglass, an heirloom he never pawned despite debts. Moonlight breaks just enough to reveal willow shadows and flickers of foxfire fungus glowing on stumps. Nothing human. Yet unease gnaws. Wolfred's reputation is more shadow than flesh, but shadow travels quicker. Brune approaches, rubs salt-tangled beard. "Storm's returning," he murmurs. "We should beach for dawn." "No," Tomas answers, too sharp. He softens. "If we ground her again, the council's hunters will catch us by breakfast." High water hides tracks, Brune argues. And high water drowns bargains. Thomas lifts spyglass, ends discussion. Midships, Captain Isold leans against mizzenmast, scribbling on a damp slate. Inventory of rations, distance to border, number of souls on board. 59 living, 2 bodies still wrapped in sailcloth for river burial at dawn. She pencils a question mark next to her own name. She no longer knows which side of tomorrow she serves. Sparrow joins her, offering sourberry tea she'd brewed from foraged leaves. Steam curls. Isold sips, grimaces at bitterness, then, almost grudgingly, drinks again. Brave tea, she says. I like honest flavors. Honesty is cheaper than chains, Sparrow replies. Isolde eyes war scar on Sparrow's knuckle, proof the prophet once wielded more than songs. She wonders who taught Sparrow to punch and when she decided singing hurt less. But there's no time to pry. A lookout whistles 3 rapid notes, signal for movement. Everyone still mobile scrambles to rails. Out of the mist glides a second vessel, long, narrow, oar-driven, prow shaped like a snarling dog's head. Black tabard standard flutters above a shield of gray iron. Wulfred arrived sooner than Dread predicted. He hails with cheerful cruelty. "Evening, Captain. Heard you'd hooked a prophet. Mind if we share the catch?"
Isolde's gut knots, she whispers to Tomas. He'll board, he'll claim Sparrow, and he'll kill hostages to prove a point.
Sparrow steps forward. "Let me speak." Tomas bars her path. His sword listens louder than his ears. But Sparrow is already at rail, voice calm enough to stroke lightning. "Wulfred Black Tabard, collector of tongues, what's your fee tonight?" The bounty hunter squints, smiles. "I collect silence lately. Kingdom pays more for prophets who stop talking." His men laugh. 12 archers, 6 cudgel bearers, all armored light for river skirmish. Isolde orders her crew to ready grappling poles, ostensibly to assist boarding. Tomas's folk whisper, "Fight or flee?" Brune curses they've no catapult. Sister Eleni grips rosary until wood beads crack. Just then, a third craft noses from the opposite bank. A squat cargo scow, flown with abbey pennant, and, almost comically, white banner of truce. At its prow stands Hilarious, cloak stiff with frost, staff lifted like shepherd's crook. Beside him, 5 teen apprentices brandish nothing but torches and outrageous courage. Wulfred laughs again. A hermit mason and candle kids think to bargain. Delightful. Hilarious calls, voice ringing clear across fog. "We bring sanctuary terms signed by Bishop Ormond of Eastgate. Any violence here violates church safe passage clause. State your quarrel before God and me." He holds parchment high. Wulfred eyes document as though it were a rat. "Church writs don't feed my men." He signals archers. Strings tighten. Tomas feels time thin like old rope. He turns to Captain. "If we cut tow and swing starboard, we can ram Wulfred's bow before he looses." Brune nods, already untying knots. Isolde calculates.
Damage her own hull, risk sinking, maybe by seconds. Sparrow touches her sleeve again. "Let me sing," she whispers. "One song. If they still fire, then fight." Isolde hesitates. Songs don't stop arrows. But Prophet Sparrow once calmed riot in marketplace with 2 verses. She nods. Sparrow climbs rail, barefoot on wet oak, extends arms. Moon skirts clouds, silver floods her upturned face. She begins low hum, droning minor mode, old seafarer lament. Tension aboard patrol boat changes shape. Sailors remember mothers rocking infants. Pilgrims recall home hearths. On Bounty boat, first archer's elbow drops, just slightly. Arrow point dips. Sparrow raises pitch, weaving river's hiss into melody, then layers words. Water keeps memory under skin. Storm writes fear, then drinks it in. Row, brothers, row, until the night gives grace. And stray not your arrow toward another's face. Verse carries across mist like rope of light. Second archer blinks tears he doesn't understand. Wolfred snarls, slams fist on gunwale. Loose! But before arrows fly, a massive thump echoes. Isolde's patrol boat rammed Wolfred's. Brune and Thomas shoved till towline tore. Patrol's reinforced prow crunches dog snout figurehead, splinters spraying. Both hulls grind, boards shriek. The impact throws archers. Half loose prematurely, arrows skew into water or sky. One strikes patrol mast, sticks. Wolfred's ship lists, hole at bowline, water gushes. Bounty crew scramble with planks. Isolde shouts to her helmsman to reverse oars. They backwash, freeing from tangle. Sparrow nearly tumbles. Thomas grabs her waist. Captain calls to Hilarious. Church scow, tow them, we've got leaks. The mason lifts a hand, his torch kids fling ropes. Wolfred bellows curses, orders crossbows. But water already at his ankles, fight becomes bale frenzy. Seeing victory drown, he flings grappling hook at patrol's stern. Hook lodges. He swings onto Isolde's deck, blade flashing. Brune meets him mid-lunge with quarterstaff. Wood knocks steel aside, but Wolfred swirls, cuts Brune's thigh. Blood splatters deck planks. Sister Eleni rushes with binding cloth. Wolfred steps toward Sparrow, sneering, "Silence, minstrel." Thomas interposes, wielding boathook. He and Wolfred circle like characters from tavern mural, merchant versus hunter. Clash of wood and metal rings. Thomas parries, slips, almost falls. Wolfred raises sword for final carve. Arrow whistles from Abbey scow, lodging in Bountyman's shoulder. Teen archer Josette trembles, bow still raised, eyes huge. Wolfred roars, staggers, but swings left fist, cracks Thomas's jaw. Sparrow dashes forward, hurls pewter fish charm, Brune's last. It strikes Wolfred's temple with ping, yet buys heartbeat. Captain Isolde appears behind him, but ends her cutlass at his wounded shoulder. He collapses, curses muffled by deck. Chains clamp. This time, Isolde locks him hard, tosses sword overboard. Battle ends as quickly as begun. Rain begins anew, gentle now, like applause from subdued sky.
Repair triage consumes pre-dawn hours. Hilarius's apprentices patch holes with pitch and scrap boards while Tomas's crew pump water. Brune survives. Elaine stitches his gash with waxed thread, humming Sparrow's melody. Sparrow herself bandages pilgrims nicked by stray shards. Captain Isolde stands over bound Wulfred. She contemplates turning him over to council to replace Sparrow on prisoner list. But Eagle Crest Courier had once told her council never pays twice. She hears Sparrow's lullaby again and decides no more trading souls. She instructs guards to deliver Wulfred to Abbey Court instead. Church has its own dungeons. Maybe there the hunter will ponder mercy. Dawn arrives wrapped in lavender fog. For first time, Tomas sees Hilarius on deck. They embrace, brother in arms though strangers. Hilarius presents Bishop's parchment. Safe passage extended to convoy if they escort refugees to cyclone-damaged villages beyond border. Captain signs. All factions merge. Patrol boat, raft, abbey scow form three-vessel caravan pointed southeast where famine and plague brood. Sparrow whispers to Tomas that prophecy sometimes is just honest weather report. Tell people storm rises, help them build roof. Tomas smiles, though jaw bruised. He fishes melted pewter lump from pocket, the charm she had thrown. Still works, he says. She laughs, louder than river. Days march. They dock at reed-choked villages, unload flour sacks, apply Sister Ellen's salves, sing Sparrow's psalms beneath half-collapsed roofs. Children follow Hilarius, calling him Stone Father, begging for mortar lessons. Brune limps, yet carves wooden crutches for plague survivors. Isolde drills local watchmen on river rescue. Even Josette, young archer, teaches peers to string bows not for war but for wild boar hunts, so ham trumps hunger. At each stop, Sparrow climbs rickety platforms, addresses crowds. Fear speaks loud, so must we, louder. She recounts storm night and peace forged on dripping deck, how hunter and hunted walked same planks. She ends with vow, build beacon towers along river for safer travel. She volunteers prophets and pilgrims alike to haul stones. Hilarious grins, project list growing like ivy. Council hears gossip of this coalition and drafts edict branding Sparrow public architect instead of heretic. They calculate that heroes calm riots cheaper than soldiers. Paperwork shuffles, bounty canceled. Wulfred rots in abbey cell writing repentant poems about rivers. Nobody reads them yet. One evening, caravan anchors amid meadow of star blossoms. Sparks float from cookfire as pilgrims roast cattail roots brushed with salt. Sparrow strums borrowed lute, plays that barley lullaby. Thomas sketches in new ledger, pages mapping beacon tower sites, meal logs, hymns. Captain Isolde sits beside him. She asks, "Ever wonder how Storm chooses which ships to spare?" Tomas gazes at caravan lit with fireflies. "Maybe storms don't choose. Maybe survivors do." She nods, sips tea, less bitter now, spiked with honey. Hilarius sets final stone, forming small wayside altar. He places burned knuckle candle, lights it. Wind fails to snuff flame. He smiles, whispers thanks to whomever's listening. Sister Eileen leads prayer, not of fear, but of awe. Voices rise, mingle with reed frogs and distant thunder that now sounds more like drum of Earth's slow heartbeat. Somewhere upriver, watchtower where they sheltered lies abandoned again, but inside, on charred hearth, glints single pewter fish melted into shapeless silver tear. Moonbeams poke through roof, striking metal until it shines brighter than fires that once consumed it. First light creeps across the meadow and turns every dew bead on the tall grass into a minute cathedral window. Emerald, gold, amethyst, repeating until horizon. Down by the bank, the three vessels, patrol boat, abbey scow, refugee raft, rock on polished steel water like chess pieces waiting for a clever player to make the final move. A heron drifts past, one knife-shaped wingtip grazing mist, the other brushing sunrise. Tomas wakes to the faint twinge in his jaw, souvenir from Wolfred's fist, then catalogues other sensations. Smell of barley porridge stewing in an iron pot, muted hum of Hilarius's apprentices quarreling about mortar ratios, and the soft pluck of Sparrow tuning her lute somewhere near the fire. For a moment he lies still, letting these notes knit themselves into fabric thicker than memory. Then he rolls up, shrugs on his patched jacket, and wanders toward the river, ledger tucked under arm. He finds Captain Isolde already pacing the bank, boots damp, eyes scanning upstream. She jots figures on a slate. Grain left, stretch of river to next village, hours until forecast storm, and mutters riverside mathematics. When Tomas greets her, she points to sky. Bruised dark clouds massing in west. We've another squall before nightfall. Beacon stones must be hauled today, or it's 3 days lost. Tomas nods. I'll rouse the crew. Behind them, Brune emerges from tent with fresh bandage strapped tight around thigh. He leans on a staff carved from driftwood, but his stride is deliberate. Sister Elaine appears too, carrying a wicker basket of willow leaves and wild garlic. She grins at Brune's limp. Pain means the body remembers it belongs to you, she says, pressing bundle into his hands for broth. Brune grumbles about herbs tasting like pond scum, but his eyes soften when Elaine turns. Under a beech, Sparrow teaches 2 pilgrims harmonies for a new work chant, something steady enough to sync with lifting rocks. Verse by verse, the melody gains spine. Little Robard taps rhythm on an overturned water barrel. Josette, the young archer, plucks a spare lute string like bowstring. Hilarius paces among beacon tower foundation stones, measuring with twine, muttering Latin and geometry like prayer wheels. Apprentice Milo slides a granite block into place. Hilarius nods, eyes shining the way sculptor's eyes do when marble finally agrees with chisel. By mid-morning, the camp is a hive. Tomas divides volunteers into 3 crews: quarry, ferry, and scaffold. Quarry team, Brune, 2 burly millers, and 4 surprisingly strong nuns wedge iron bars beneath riverbank boulders, heave until stones thunk onto sledges. Ferry crew, Isolde, Josette, and half the patrol sailors load stones onto skiff and rope tow them to foundation. Scaffold team, Hilarius, Sparrow, Elaine, and Thomas himself Arrange each block, smear mortar, and wedge shards to lock corners. Children pass clay pitchers of water. Elders patch torn gloves. Everyone hums Sparrow's rhythm. A community hammering fear into architecture. By midday, the tower stands waist high, and Thomas pauses atop first course, wiping mortar across trouser leg. He surveys scene, sweat-glossed faces, laughter erupting when Brune cracks joke about rocks having better social lives than tax collectors. Sparrow's song weaving above clinks and grunts. For the first time in months, Thomas feels something that tastes like peace. Then thunder grumbles, a slow, rolling cough. Clouds steep darker, boiling purple. River chops hard. Isolde calls break, orders sails secured, tells ferry crew to lash barrels to hulls. Hilarious checks mortar, only half cured. He frowns. If the storm hits full, it'll wash fresh joints away. She won't stand.
No time to tarp, Brune growls. We'd need pitch cloth wider than a king's bed.
Tomas flips ledger pages, thinking. We need weight. Add one more course above. The stones themselves will hold mortar in place until it sets. Hilarious tugs beard. Weight will press, yes, but we'd need 20 more blocks, and quarries are exhausted. Sparrow, feet bare and slathered with mud, says quietly, Storm expects us to protect ourselves. Let's oblige it. She turns to pilgrims. Dismantle the storage hut. Planks, beams, roof stakes. Layer as ring wall around base. Brune, oversee. Josette, arrows down. Use bow to lash rope braces. They scramble. Hut comes apart faster than fear. Planks rise, encircle stone core like wooden shield. Sailors wedge anchor poles, lash with terry hemp. Over top, they stretch coarse canvas ripped from old grain sacks, angled so runoff channels into trench. Hilarious blesses the improvised engineering, whispering names of Roman bridge builders for luck. Rain begins as scattered drops, then needle shower, then full sheet. Everyone ducks under canvas to hold poles. Lightning forks. River glows briefly as if lit from beneath. Thunder detonates overhead. The tower quivers but stands. Under flapping canvas roof, Sparrow raises voice. No instrument now, just pure throat. She chooses a chant older than kings, minor key, words of uncertain origin. Stone in water, stone in sky. Storm may shout, but stones reply. Hold the line till dawn is bright. Anchor hope in watchtower light. Voices join, first Elaine, then Josette, then every throat. Rain hammers alloy of wood and stone, song hammers back. In that moment, Tomas comprehends prophecy, not predictions, but instructions for stubborn survival. He clutches ledger to chest, sings louder. Hours crawl. Storm's fury roars, then stumbles, then drags itself away, grumbling. Canvas finally stills. A hush falls hot and sweet as mulled wine. They step out. Beacon tower still stands, mortar held, wood ring half flooded but intact. Hilarious kneels, kisses stone. Isolde laughs, rusty sound trying to remember laughter's shape. Sparrow wipes rain streaks, smiles small. But rapture interrupts. Brune signals from river. "Rider!" he bellows. Across meadow gallops a horse bearing slender woman in green surcoat, city crest on breast. She reins before captain and slides off saddle with grace of a bard. "Envoy from council," she announces, offering scroll-sealed wax. Isolde's shoulders tighten, Sparrow's jaw sets. Envoy unrolls parchment, reads, "By decree of High Council, Prophet Sparrow is absolved of charges. Furthermore, the Council recognizes foundation of River Beacon 1 as civil boon. All participants granted safe build charter and supply stipend. Captain Isolde Stonewake, appointed warden of lower reaches, with authority to recruit militia and levy toll for tower maintenance." Murmurs ripple, relief, suspicion, budding pride. Isolde accepts scroll. Why the sudden generosity? Envoy's gaze flicks to tower. Your song spilled into city. Riots cooled. Council saw profit in peace. They would rather build towers than gallows, at least this week. Tomas meets Sparrow's eyes. Wariness there. Council's coin can shackle as tightly as chains. But Sparrow steps forward. "We accept charter, on condition no toll burdens pilgrims fleeing famine. Beacon must guide all, not fleece the poor." Envoy hesitates, then nods. "I'll add addendum. Hilarious beams! Stones and politics finally align." Brune exclaims he'll design toll booth that discounts rags and charges gold-trimmed cloaks triple. Josette jokes she'll guard booth, arrow pointed only at purse-fat merchants. Laughter cracks tension. But celebration pauses when Sister Eileen asks, "What of Wolfred?" Council envoy shrugs. "Bounty withdrawn. Abbey may release him." Tomas's stomach knots. Sparrow's brow furrows. Isolde's fingers drum cutlass pommel. They know Hunter's pride won't forgive humiliation. Freed, he'll stalk again. Sparrow inhales slow. "Then we must invite him here. Offer work." Brune snorts. Sparrow persists. "A hunter knows paths, tracks, dangers, storms ahead bigger than one man's grudge. If he accepts purpose, perhaps anger breaks." Isolde folds arms. "And if he refuses?" Sparrow picks up a stone, presses thumbprint into damp mortar on tower wall. Then he'll still know where Beacon stands, and light will show him there's a choice. Captain surveys faces. Fatigue, scars, but eyes bright. She nods. Envoy departs, promise of supplies rattling in saddlebags. Dusk creeps. Pilgrims relight fire, scent of garlic stew fills air. Robard, arms dusty, presents Sparrow with small wooden boat he carved during storm. Hull etched with fish symbol. She lifts him onto knee, thanks him. He whispers, "Will the river ever stop scaring us?" Sparrow replies, "Rivers teach by scaring. Lesson is, keep rowing." Night drapes over camp. Beacon Tower, barely taller than two men, suddenly blazes. Josette climbs scaffold, drops resin torch into iron brazier atop stone. Flame leaps, painting meadow amber, shimmering on river skin. From miles away, fisher folk glimpse glow, steer nets from shoals. Owls circle, baffled by new star near ground. Below, Thomas opens ledger to final page. Quill poised, he hesitates. How to conclude? He writes, "We set stones in mud, light in storm, hope in fearful hearts. Story continues beyond Riverbend. Tomorrow, Tower 2 begins." He dots. Period. Closes book. Sparrow approaches. "Writing fortune cookies," he laughs. He offers ledger. She declines. "Words trap voices. I'll keep singing mine loose." She nods toward Tower. "It's yours to finish." Together they climb scaffold, stand beside brazier. Wind tussles hair, billows Sparrow's patched cloak. Far off, thunder tumbles again, smaller now, polite. Isolde's patrol boat creaks in current, anchor rope taut like promise. Hilarious snores near fire, apprentices curled around him like pups. Eleni hums lullaby while grinding herbs. Thomas inhales smoky air. "Remember when the river felt like prison?" Sparrow gazes at glittering current reflecting beacon. Prisons are just bridges, not finished. She slips pewter lump, the melted fish charm, into brazier. Metal glows, liquefies, merges with flame. Sparks dart upward like newborn constellations. Beneath them, Brune strums borrowed lute, sings off-key but earnest. Robard drums pot lid. Pilgrims sway, some already dozing upright. Faces amber lit, shadows long. Wind carries chorus across meadow, over reeds, perhaps all the way to Wolfred's cell window, if he's listening. Sparrow leans on railing. "One night you asked what storms choose. Tonight I answer, they pick whoever holds a lantern, because lantern bearers show where to strike." Tomas frowns. She clarifies, "So build more lanterns than the storm has lightning." He grins. From that height they watch river slide into dark, but beacon holds steady, flame unmoving even though wind gusts. Thomas guesses heat vortices. Sparrow thinks maybe the fire sees purpose and refuses to waver. Either way, they stand until eyelids sag. Before descending, Sparrow turns to invisible watchers, maybe spirits, maybe just the quiet future, and speaks soft. "Let those who wander find enough light to fear a little less." She doesn't expect answer, yet morning dew on rail sparkles as though someone nodded. They climb down. Thomas snuffs side torches, leaves brazier roaring. Camp settles. Stars wheel. River murmurs lullaby in dialect only dreamers understand. And that, night travelers, is where our river story draws its map's last line. Though water still flows, and new towers will rise whenever someone brave enough lifts the next stone. If the beacon kept you company through these 7 midnight miles, hammer that like, "So, I know the flame reached you." Dredge the comments with your brightest survival trick, be it song, stone, or stubborn hope, so other drifters can borrow it. And if you haven't yet joined our sleepless fleet, press subscribe. Storm season's just begun, and I'll need every lantern I can get. Close your eyes now. Listen. Distant thunder? or just your own heart echoing the tower drums. Either way, the light is there. Row easy. Good night.